This was 1963. I was a contributing editor to the Saturday Evening Post, and they assigned me to do an article on Bob Dylan. This was really just at the start of his ascendance. He was just bursting out into the open. I fell so much in love with Bob and with his music that I never really wrote the article for the Saturday Evening Post. It was like Jimmy Cannon said of Frank Sinatra, I can't write about him and be his friend too.
At the time that Aronowitz came on the scene, there was no such thing as a rock critic. But if you were into the music and you were a writer, you were kind of as important as the artist. Aronowitz was one of the inventors of the new journalism, where the writer is part of the story.
A lot of the questions that Bob and other musicians would get asked were insulting. Gradually, some young journalists came along, Al being the first, who understood more of the music and began to take it more seriously.
My father had a talent for recognizing the brilliant musicians and artists and poets. He realized that he should get close to them. Over a period of about 10 years, we were very connected to Bob and his family.
Al recognized the power of Bob Dylan's music, and he saw the opening in the culture that then Dylan walked into. When Dylan came out, that was like Martian music to people. Al was someone who could interpret what was happening to a broader audience.
Well, if you think about Bob Dylan in 1963 and 64, let's just start by saying, if he never did another thing after that, we would still be talking about him. That was a key moment, to be sitting next to the flame, and that's when Al Aronowitz was there. By the time somebody like Bob Dylan is playing in Town Hall, the inkling of the level at which he's going to begin operating very soon becomes clear. Bob Dylan in concert was a very different thing from everybody sitting around and having a drink in a club.
This is the moment for Bob Dylan. 6 weeks after this concert, he becomes a massive star. It's a 900-seat venue in New York. That's a pretty prestigious, historic venue. Not only do we have the handbill, which is pretty rare and has a great picture of Bob on it, even more rare are the programs. There's no picture of him on the front. There's probably fewer than 10 known to exist, and Al had 2, so that's pretty exciting.
As we went through the entire collection, there were these, a couple of things that were in the family lore that my father would tell these stories. Mr. Tambourine Man, how Dylan wrote it in our kitchen, stayed up all night, and was listening to Can I Get a Witness by Marvin Gaye over and over again.
Aronowitz said that he found these the next morning after Dylan was asleep on his couch in the wastepaper basket, and he was about to throw them away and had this little inner voice that told him to save them, which he did, and he flattened out, put them in a file. But I loved that he mentioned that it was really for him as a writer, looking at them to see that his friend took a lot of leaps, and he saw which leaps landed and which didn't. This actually allows you inside the mind of Bob Dylan as he's sitting down and typing, and you witness how he refines the song.
And those same files were sketches that Dylan had done on the Plaza Hotel notepad, and some of them are great. They're really fantastic.
Do I understand Bob Dylan better because I'm sitting behind a desk listening to his albums? Or am I learning more about Dylan by hanging out with Dylan, being intimate with him in a way that Dylan was with so few people? You can't teach that in a journalism class. That's a life that has to be lived, and Al Aronowitz lived it.